I pushed open the iron gate to my secluded riverfront cabin in Willow Creek, Oregon, and stopped dead in my tracks. It was July 15th, 2024, and my private river, a shimmering ribbon of crystal-clear water I'd paid a fortune for, looked like a public water park. Strangers were splashing in the current, kids were leaping off my private dock, and the smoky scent of barbecue grills wafted from my lawn. Music blared so loud the ground seemed to pulse beneath my feet. And there, standing at the center of it all, flipping burgers like she owned the place, was Laura Bennett, the HOA president. She caught my eye, smirked, and said, "You can't make them leave. This is community property." My blood boiled. I'd bought every inch of this land. I hit record on my phone, heart pounding like a drum. This river was my haven, my escape from the grind of Portland's chaos. I'm Ethan Carter, 37, an environmental scientist who tests polluted streams and toxic soil for the state. After weeks wading through contaminated waters, owning this pristine river felt like a miracle. I'd bought this cabin 8 months ago as my retreat, a place where the water was so clear you could see trout darting 20 feet below. But Laura, 52, a former real estate agent turned HOA dictator, had other ideas. From the moment I moved in, Laura acted like she ruled Willow Creek. She'd show up unannounced, always with some HOA rule to nitpick, her eyes lingering on my river like it was a prize she was sizing up. Her husband, Tom, was the quiet type, nice enough, probably the guy who'd help you jumpstart your car, but completely under Laura's thumb. Months back, she dropped a cryptic comment about my river being more valuable than you realize. I brushed it off as small-town gossip, too focused on my sanctuary to read into it. Big mistake. I'd just wrapped a grueling project in Portland, finishing early on a Friday. Exhausted from 2 weeks of water sampling, all I wanted was to sink into the quiet of my cabin. I didn't tell anyone I was coming back early. Why would I? The 2-hour drive through Oregon's winding coastal roads usually ended with nothing but the sound of birds and the gentle ripple of the river. But that Saturday, around 3 p.m., I turned onto my street and heard pounding music and voices. I figured a neighbor was hosting a party, no big deal. I'm not the type to gripe about people having fun. But then I saw it. Cars lined my street, strangers sprawled across my lawn, grills smoking, kids diving off my dock. My river looked like a county fair. Laura stood in the middle, laughing, gesturing at my water like she was giving a tour of her personal resort. Some guy was teaching kids to fish while parents lounged in chairs they'd hauled from home. This wasn't a neighborly get-together. It was a full-blown invasion. I started recording, my hands shaking with anger. I marched up to Laura, trying to keep my voice steady. "Laura, what the hell are you doing on my property?" She spun around, startled, then flashed a smile like I was the one crashing her party. "Oh, Ethan, you're back early," she said, as if I needed permission to show up at my own home. "This is our community barbecue. We're using the community river area." I blinked, stunned. "Community river? This is my private property," I said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. But Laura didn't flinch. Instead, she dialed 911, her voice quivering like she was terrified. "Hello, police. There's a man disrupting our community event. He's threatening us. Please hurry." I couldn't believe it. She was calling the cops on me for standing on my own land. I grabbed my phone and called the police myself. "I need to report trespassing on my private property," I said, struggling to sound calm. "There's an unauthorized party on my land with dozens of people." As I hung up, I saw strangers staring at me like I was the bad guy. Laura's fake tears were working, and I started to wonder if this was just a misunderstanding or something far more calculated. When the police arrived, Officer Daniel stepped out, a gruff guy who greeted Laura with a familiar nod. "Mrs. Bennett, you called about a disturbance?" My stomach sank. They knew each other. Laura launched into a performance, tears welling as she claimed I'd crashed a peaceful community gathering and scared families. Tom nodded behind her, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. I kept my cool, pulling out my keys. "Officer, I'm the homeowner. These people are on my property without permission." Daniels looked skeptical, like I might be some confused renter. "Got proof of ownership?" he asked. Laura's reputation as HOA president carried weight, but I was ready. As an environmental scientist, I keep my documents tight. Land boundaries are my job. I spread out my survey map on his car hood, pointing to the lines that showed the river was entirely mine. No community access, no shared rights. Laura's face tightened as I laid out the evidence. For the first time, her smug confidence wavered. When Daniels asked for her proof, she stammered, "I don't carry property papers to a barbecue." But her excuse fell flat. The crowd started whispering, phones out, recording the drama. Daniels studied my documents, then checked something on his phone, probably county records. His tone shifted. "Mrs. Bennett, if this is private property, you need the owner's permission." Laura's voice climbed higher, desperate. "We've used this river before," she blurted, admitting to multiple trespasses. I seized on it. "Exactly. She's been using my property without my knowledge." The party dissolved as people packed up, shooting embarrassed glances my way. Laura's glare as she left with Tom was pure venom, and I knew this wasn't over. Within days, my mailbox was stuffed with HOA violation notices, petty nonsense like noise at 9 a.m. or unapproved garden beds. Laura was weaponizing the rules to make my life hell. She didn't stop there. She launched a social media smear campaign, posting about a disruptive new resident who didn't respect community values. The comments were brutal. Strangers who'd never met me questioned my character. I almost caved, drafting a listing to sell the cabin. But one evening, watching the river glow under the sunset, I slammed my laptop shut. This was my home. I wasn't running. I dove into the HOA bylaws, poring over every clause like I was auditing a contaminated site. Laura had slipped up. Her social media posts violated rules against targeting residents. Her violation notices skipped required warnings, and that barbecue broke every event policy. I gathered signatures from 3 curious neighbors and called an emergency HOA meeting. Laura tried to block it, but the bylaws were clear. The meeting was set, and she walked in like a queen ready to crush me. But I was ready too. I presented my evidence like a courtroom lawyer. Videos proving my lawnmower ran during allowed hours, photos showing my garden within bounds, and screenshots of Laura's rule-breaking posts. The room went silent as I exposed her hypocrisy. Then I dropped the bomb. Her violations were retaliatory, issued right after the police incident. Neighbors started whispering, their loyalty to Laura cracking. After the meeting, Mrs. Clara Thompson, a 72-year-old former HOA treasurer, pulled me aside. "There's more to Laura you need to know," she whispered, clutching a folder. We met at a quiet diner in town, where she slid a manila envelope across the table like it was radioactive. Inside were records of financial irregularities, community funds funneled to fake companies, invoices matching Laura's home renovations. Clara had tracked this for years, but stayed silent out of fear. Then she showed me a handwritten note she'd received. "Stop digging or face consequences." My pulse raced. We dug deeper, accessing HOA records with another resident as a witness. Hidden among the files were surveys of my river, detailing its commercial potential, tourism, water bottling, the works. Laura had been planning to force me out to cash in. When she caught us in the HOA office, her eyes were ice cold. "Those are confidential," she snapped, lunging for the surveys. I pulled them back. "Why do you have surveys of my land?" I asked. She had no answer and stormed out, but her silence screamed trouble. We called another meeting, and the clubhouse was packed, a news van parked outside. I laid out the evidence: bank statements, fake invoices, surveys with Laura's handwritten notes. The crowd erupted, shouting "thief," as Laura's lies unraveled. She stormed in, screaming that I'd forged everything, but her voice cracked, and her tears didn't sway anyone. Clara stood, her voice steady. "I watched her steal from us," she said, laying out her own evidence. The vote to oust Laura was unanimous. She left, her heels echoing like a death knell. The fallout was swift. Headlines blared, "HOA president ousted for fraud." Reporters hounded her, and Tom filed for divorce. I thought it was over, but a threatening letter arrived, demanding $50,000 for defamation. My lawyer friend laughed at off-truth was my shield. Still, the harassment didn't stop. My trash was spilled, footsteps crunched outside at night. Then I had my river tested. It was worth 6 figures, a goldmine Laura had targeted from day one. Her barbecue, violations, and smears were all steps to force me out. I signed a deal with an ecotourism company to preserve the river, turning it into a sanctuary. Months later, a documentary crew called, wanting to feature my river as a symbol of fighting corruption. As I sat by the water, its surface glowing like molten gold, I realized peace wasn't free, but it was worth the fight. What would you do if someone tried to steal your dream? Would you fight like Ethan or walk away? Drop a comment, hit like, or subscribe for more stories that'll keep you up at night. What's the shadiest thing a neighbor's done to you?